Anyway, I've gotten to spend some great time with Larry, and it's been enjoyable. And even though I've heard some of his talks multiple times, I continue to enjoy them, and I hope you'll enjoy this one. So without further ado, here's Larry Reed.
Thanks, Francisco. Thanks, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. I have been a fan of JMI since its early days in 1987, which was the same year that we started the Mackinac Center. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you. And I thank you for your support of JMI and for Liberty. I have a story to begin with, but first I should double check with you, Francisco, on the time. At what point do you want me to be sure to stop and open it up for?
About 1 o'clock.
Okay.
That's 12:35.
Okay. Well, I have a story for you that I've told many times, but I don't think I've ever told it in Jacksonville, so I'm hoping that this will be new to all of you. But it's a true story that goes back to testimony given before a congressional committee some years back by a developer in Louisiana. And this developer had to secure the approval first of no fewer than 23 local and parish and state agencies before he could begin his project. And as he told the story later in congressional testimony, he said that just when he thought that everything was ready to go, he learned that he also had to apply for approval from the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development as well. So he and his attorney filled out all the required forms, sent them off to HUD, whereupon the agency sent back this reply.
Thank you.
We received today your letter enclosing application for your client in supportive abstract of title. We have observed, however, that you have not traced the title to the property prior to 1803. Before final approval can be granted, you must trace the title previous to that year. And as you might imagine, he and his attorney were outraged at this example of bureaucratic foot dragging, so they fired off to HUD the following reply, which has become somewhat of a classic. Dear gentlemen, your letter regarding title has been received. I noted that you wished title to be traced further back than I have done. Well, I was unaware that any educated man failed to know that Louisiana was purchased from France in 1803. But he doesn't end there. He goes on to trace the title. The next paragraph reads, the title of that land was acquired by France by right of conquest from Spain. The land came into the possession of Spain by right of discovery in 1492 by an Italian sailor named Christopher Columbus. The good Queen Isabella had taken the precaution of securing the blessing of the Pope of Rome upon Columbus's voyage before she sold her jewels to help him. The Pope, in turn, is the emissary of Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God. God made the world. I think it's safe to assume that God created that part of the world known as the United States, and that part of the United States known as Louisiana, and I hope the hell you're satisfied. It's about tracing it back about as far as you can possibly get. Today I'm going to talk to you about 7 principles of sound public policy. And I should tell you at the outset that I don't mean to suggest that these are the only principles that ought to guide us in policy making. And I don't want you to think they are original with me, because in almost every case they're not. You'll recognize some of them coming from far more notable people. I simply assembled them here and added some stories, put them in one package. And I argue that if every legislator, if we could ever have a day when every legislator would not only understand these principles, but act accordingly and build policy upon them, we'd have a lot less mischief in our state capitals and in the federal capital. They are simple, but at the same time, very, very profound. The first principle is free people are not equal, and equal people are not free. Free people are not equal, and equal people are not free. I have to tell you what kind of equalness I'm referring to here. I'm not talking about equality before the law. That's a time-honored principle of Western civilization that there probably is no dispute over, at least amongst those of you here. The idea that you should be judged innocent or guilty of something you're accused of. based upon whether or not you did it, not according to race or creed or religion or place of birth. We fall short of that sometimes, but it's an eternal and important critical pillar of Western civilization. That's not what I'm talking about, however. I'm talking about equalness economically, in income, in material wealth. Not to suggest that material wealth is everything in life, but it's pretty darn important because it's what feeds and clothes and houses people and often makes life comfortable and even, in fact, worth living sometimes. So it's pretty important stuff, but I'm referring narrowly to economic income, material well-being. Free people, I'm suggesting, are not going to be equal economically. They will generate vast outcomes, different outcomes in a free and open marketplace, and for a lot of reasons. I'll give you just three very quickly. One is, our talents are different one from another. And some people don't even find what their best and highest talent is in life until very late in life. If we had time, I'd go into more detail, but I'll tell you very quickly, the man who founded the Kellogg Company, and you've all had Kellogg products of one kind or another, he was written off by everybody who knew him for the first 46 years of his life as somebody who wasn't going to go very far. He didn't seem to have any talent or any skill, and he worked for his older brother at the older brother's hospital in Battle Creek, Michigan, for many years, never making more than $25 a week. And one of his jobs was to prepare the breakfast food. And one night he didn't do it right. He left it uncovered. It dried out. And when he went to serve it the next morning, instead of the moist gruel that his older brother had devised, it turned out to be a dried, flaked thing. And the patients loved it. And he pressed his older brother to let him market the stuff. And his older brother refused. He finally went out on his own at the age of 46. And created the Kellogg Company, and within 20 years he became one of America's 20 wealthiest citizens. There's a guy who did not know that he had a talent, a marketing talent, until the late age of 1946, the age of 46. Excuse me. I wonder if I could, yeah, that would be great. Have that handy, thank you. Our talents are different, and we're not the same as from one person to another. And the talents that we have are just one bit of evidence of that. The second reason we're different and must generate differences in incomes in the marketplace is our industriousness. Some people work harder and smarter and longer than other people. And a third reason is our savings. If we could somehow tonight, or if the president could equalize everybody's incomes, I would suggest that by breakfast time, we'd be unequal again, because some of us would save it and some of us would spend it. And some of us would save it in certain things, and others would do a better job at it. So this idea that we should lament the differences that occur naturally in free markets between people's incomes, that we should lament that, I think is based upon false assumptions. Now, you hear a lot of talk about how, well, policy must try to bring people to a more equal level of income. We have to close the gap between rich and poor. In my belief, we do a lot better if we focused on the artificial barriers, the obstacles that we put, often in policy, in front of people that keep them from going as far as their talents can take them. Abraham Lincoln once said, you can't pull one man up by dragging another one down. We should focus more on removing the barriers our own policies create than in trying to penalize the successful. And if the first part of this first principle isn't clear, free people are not equal, the second part, I think, will drive home my point even more clearly. Equal people are not free. If you could show me a place in the world where everybody is equal economically, where everybody's making the same, possesses the same, irrespective of their contributions in the marketplace, irrespective of their choices and decisions, I would say that knowing nothing else about that place, I could say with assurance that that's an unfree